This episode of the Kinda Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Sherry's Berries. There's no one like your Valentine. This year, treat them to an unforgettable gift that's as unique as they are. Don't tell her, but I am definitely getting Gia some of these babies. This was written for Tim. I'm not cheating on Jen. Sherry's Berries will deliver your gift fresh and on time, guaranteed or your money back. These berries are decadent, fresh, juicy, sweet, and shareable, just like Gia Harris. Damn it, Tim. And you can choose to get them dipped in white, milk, or dark chocolatey goodness like Gia Harris. What does that mean, Tim? With Valentine's Day right around the corner, there's only one way to get these freshly dipped strawberries from Sherry's Berries starting at $19.99. Go to berries.com. That's berries, BERRIES.com. Click on the microphone in the top right and enter in KF Games. That's berries.com. Use the code KF Games. Help support this show and get some sweet, sweet berries for your sweet, sweet Valentine, like my sweet, sweet baby Gia Harris. God damn it, Tim. So stick with me on this one. I want to know why you're the way you are and why you're who you are and why I think you're kind of a unicorn in the industry. And then going away from that for a second.
Who's you? Like, are you talking about me or
you?
Bethesda?
Okay. Oh, you personally.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's also, I think, part of the Bethesda character, maybe. And then I'm going to ask you, do you remember our first interaction on Twitter?
Okay, which one do you want me to answer first?
The interaction one.
No.
Okay. Colin and I on Beyond early on were talking shit about Skyrim and how it wasn't running on PS3 and how like it was crashing all this stuff. And this is it was already, we knew the problem was out. People knew about the thing, right? And you know, Megan Sullivan at IGN was troubleshooting, blah, blah, blah. Yep. And we were doing the thing of like,
by the way, this is when you're still at IGN?
Correct. Yeah. And so we're like, this is like as it's happening. So this is when did Skyrim on PS3 was?
What's it, 11? Yeah. So this was probably like December.
Exactly that. Right after the new year or something. And we're talking about it, and a fan tweeted you saying, hey, the guys on Beyond have a question about why this isn't running. And you responded back to him. He's like, I've tried to talk to IGN. I'm not doing it again. And I was like, hey, I haven't talked to you, and I'm sorry. And you were just like, I've tried to talk, and I was like, fuck, like this guy's calling it like he sees it in public. And even to this day now, the way you tweet and the way you communicate and the way you talk on this podcast, you don't talk like you are the vice president of marketing and PR. You talk like you are in an indie studio and you don't have to answer to anybody and everything else. Because like a great example, and I think I didn't see Colin's final script, but his Colin was right. That'll be live by the time you see this, audience. Is about, you know, getting data and hard facts and hard opinions from big companies about video games and how the political climate and all this stuff. And he's firing out these emails and not getting responses. You know what I mean? That's when you start asking real questions, quote unquote, when there is a definitive answer about something, usually you don't see or hear from anybody, right? But for you are out there on the front lines tweeting and talking all the time and answering fans and answering PR people and press people and all. And it's just, why do you think you're able to do that? Why are you like that and other people can't be? Why can you be so opinionated? Whereas like if you were to talk, like, I guess like, think about like in terms of presence, in terms of talking for a company, you are equivalent to Shuhei Yoshida for PlayStation. Because Shu will respond and talk, and he'll take photos at a Nintendo event, and everybody's like, okay, cool. You'll go out and tweet about what you're playing, and it's not a Bethesda game, and who cares? But everybody else, like, the PR people for PlayStation, the PR people for Microsoft, with the exception maybe of Major Nelson, but even him, they're on brand to an extent. You're a gunslinger.
I wasn't prepared for this question.
I like to give you something new. You know what I mean? Just because we did a 2-hour pre-interview yesterday doesn't mean I'm not going to have stuff for you today.
First of all, I'm relieved that I wasn't a huge prick to you when we interacted on Twitter.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, audience, but I want to say we've done a kind of funny video since then that maybe it was a Q&A, maybe it was something, and somebody's like, who'd you want on the show? And I was like, you, because I felt like, not that there was bad blood.
I do remember out of nowhere, like at one point, I got a bunch of like, hey, Game Over Greggy wants you on the show.
Well, it's because like...
And it just sort of came out of left field.
And that was the thing, is like, you know what I mean? Like my career arc and how much, I mean, like when we initially pop up. First off, Twitter to everyone's new at the time, and it's like whatever. And then some fucking podcast from IGN's doing it. I'm sure you're like, well, I'm talking to IGN already for their news stories. I don't need, you know what I mean? But for us, we're like, oh fuck, like I want to talk to you about it. I want to have conversations with you about
it. Well, here's my best swipe at an answer. Number one, important to realize that in a lot of ways, my background at Bethesda is very much what an indie shop would look like. 1999, I get hired by that company to be the director of PR and marketing. It was a handful of devs, the president, a sales assistant. I had a marketing artist. Todd Vaughn, our VP of development or director of development, I guess at the time, was there. And like as far as Bethesda goes, that was about it. So for the first until 2005, I think, was when I hired Aaron Losey to come in and do actual PR and marketing with me. I did all the community stuff. I did all the PR. I did all the marketing. Whatever it was, like I did it. I worked on the box. I worked on the ads. I worked on the trailers. I was in the forums talking to people. Like that was just what I knew. And I'm a big believer in as much as possible trying to be open and honest and communicate with people the best I can. Full disclosure, it has not always served me well because things that I say where I'm like, joking and like, trying to be funny and somebody takes it as a complete insult or backhanded slap or I'm being like, ooh, why are you so savage? Like, savage, like somebody asked me like how the answer to a question, to your point, like I have 140 characters, like you could just Google that. Like you don't really
always so fun.
Right? Like so like I remember the specific incident recently where somebody asked me a question. I was like, look, if you Google from my name or Todd's name and about this, like you'll find a number of interviews with that. And I got this feedback from a couple of folks like, why are you such a dick to people? Like, well, I thought I was just trying to help point that person to a much better answer than I can give you in 140 characters. Like I don't just get to go on and on like I get to do here with you, where I get to provide the proper context and so forth. Yeah. But the base thing is I do think that level of interaction is important. Now, I am by far not the only person at our company who does that. I have an amazing global community lead, Matt Grandstaff, who works with our community team, and Jess and Jason and Evan and Jess. Like they spend all of their time on social, like talking to people and trying to answer questions. But I still think it's important for me to do it because even though I have the title that I have, that's not really how I view myself. Sure. If that makes sense.
No,
I'm just a guy at Bethesda trying to do my job the best I can. And sometimes maybe I'm a little bit more candid than I should be. Somebody once asked me, like, how do you deal with all of the like hate or like people asking you about TES 6 and when it's coming out or to confirm or deny some rumor about a game? Like, well, truth of them is every now and then I just try and be a little funny or whatever to like let a little steam off. And not in a mean way, but hopefully just, I mean, sometimes it's mean, but if it's mean, it's 100% of the time because it's directed at an asshole who just says something like, fuck you and fuck Bethesda and you suck. And like, yeah, I'll give that guy shit back. I don't care. Yeah. Most of the time I just go in and mute him because I love the idea of people screaming into the void and thinking that
this is my argument. Me and Colin argues, I got to block. I'm like, no,
don't block them. Yeah. Like I block people who are like who way overdo it, and it gets to the point where it's like that. Like I've had people threaten my kids. Like people get Skyrim PS3 did me no favors because they're looking to scream at somebody. They don't want to scream at a building, right?
Sure.
They want to scream at a guy. Yeah. Like even if it's not the guy in charge, I want a name that I can yell at and vent my frustrations because I'm unhappy and upset. As well you should. Like, you're a consumer, you spent money, you're pissed off. Like, it doesn't matter to you that it's not my fault. You're just mad, and you have a right to be. But I do love the mute function. It's my favorite thing in the world because of that. Because oftentimes
they don't even know.
I get a little bit, like, I feel a little better inside when I know I will never have to read what that person says again, and they're just going to scream into the void, and they have no idea that I've muted you, and you're just yelling at a wall in a basement. Uncle Touchy's naked puzzle basement somewhere, like screaming into the dark corner. That's a Patton Oswalt reference for the comedian fans out there. Yeah. So I do feel like that level of interaction is important, and I want people to know at the very least that they're being heard. It's amazing how many times that I've simply responded and said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I understand. Or we were talking about this a little bit yesterday. People are like, well, I don't want to pay $60 for the Skyrim Special Edition. It should be $30. And I say, okay, you get to decide how to spend your money. If it's not worth $60 to you, I totally get it. And that people take that as like, oh, you're just being a jerk. Like, no, I'm not. I'm being respectful. I'm telling you, like, you decide how to spend your money. I don't get to decide that. I don't ever try and change your mind or convince you of something, because I don't think it's possible. I think I can put out information about what we're doing that you can look at and say, that interests me and I want to buy it, or that's not my cup of tea and I don't care.
Sure.
But that's on you. That's not on me. And I'm going to do what our job, I'm going to try and do my job the best way I can to be kind of honest and say, like this is the game that we're making. I don't think I've ever had anybody say, like, you guys misrepresented the game, like it totally wasn't like that or anything. Like, I think we're pretty true to what the experience is, because I think that's what good marketing and PR is. It's taking the experience you're going to have playing it and bringing it out in trailers and screenshots and how we talk about it. But that's just who I am. Like, genuinely, Greg, I love to help people. And I care a lot about my company. I care about our fans, and it makes me feel good to try and answer questions, help people out. Like, I enjoy that. You got to take the good with the bad, and you're going to piss people off when you do it, or somebody's going to take it the wrong way.
No matter what,
I've apologized to people that, to my core, I was like, I do not want to apologize to this person, or they are totally misstating what I'm doing. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet, and I'm going to just say, like, yep, my bad. Whatever. I've shared bad information or said dumb stuff. I've never once deleted a tweet because something I said didn't go over well. Like, I own up to it. I said it, and I'll take whatever crap I'm going to get for it, because I think that's how people should operate. And not everybody does, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to hold myself to that standard. That's who I am. I'm going to stay true to myself.
No, I mean, it's funny, so much of what you said is how I feel about everything I do, right? And that was the problem of being at IGN a lot of the times, was the fact that, all right, cool. Oh, they tell us, okay, no more cursing on podcasts, right? And so we do a podcast where we don't curse, and then we get a million questions like, what's happening? Because we're like, we are close on that one.
Yeah.
And then next week I'm like, oh, we are told not to curse. And then I get pulled in an office, and they're like, why did you say that? I'm like, because that's why. What do you mean? Why? That's how it's what you asked me to do, and like
right.
they didn't, like, that transparency wasn't what they were looking for.
Yep.
And the same thing happens here. Like, we talk about all the time. Like, we were talking about it yesterday. I think there comes a point where you get to the gap, and you're like, all right, cool. We're not going to cross. This isn't a relationship that has to exist. And we call our kids, our fans, best friends, right?
Yep.
Because it is. If you come in and you adopt this, and our kids are awesome to each other and awesome to other people in the industry and do all these amazing things, but you just know at a glance with a comment that, okay, this isn't going to work. And we put up a video over the weekend where I did we do these new things where we have these videos where on Patreon, if you support us at $15 and above, you get all the benefits, obviously, of the rest of the perks below it, but you also get to be part of these AMAs where you ask us a question and then we make a video and we put it up on YouTube. And we did the first one, and this kid commented, and he was just like, $15, man, you're ripping off your fans, and he didn't even watch the whole video, because at the end I'm like, remember, you get everything else. This isn't just, you're not just paying $15 to get your question read. And so like he was like, I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. And some kid was like, bye, whatever his name was, and I responded back. I was like, see you later, blah blah blah, his name. And then so many kids responded to that, and then it's like, Greg's ego truly has gone to his head, and like, this was Tim's dream, but Greg's the one who's off there. And then they're like, well, Colin's been. And I'm like, all right, guys, like, what do you?
It's such nonsense. And honestly, it goes back to what I said about game development, which is there's no pleasing everybody. And ultimately, like, I totally agree with that. Like, bye. Like, well, like, what else are you supposed to say? Like, please don't come back. Like, I got to spend all day, every day trying to convince every single person who doesn't want to buy Doom that they have to buy Doom. Like, what's the current console and PC install base? Like, how many phone calls am I going to have to make a day to reach everybody who didn't buy Doom? Like, that's honestly, that's no way to live. Like, you got to focus on the people who are interested or willing to have a conversation, or at the very least be respectful. When I hear you talk about your sort of fan base and your fans, like, that's the way it should be, right? Like, just being respectful. It doesn't mean you have to agree all the time, but you can disagree and still walk away and be friends. And honestly, like that's my approach. If you're going to be respectful to me, you don't have to like what we do. But if all you're going to do is harass or bitch and moan and troll, like you go into the mute file, and I'm done with you. And I don't care if you like what I say or not. Like I'm 47 years old. I've been doing this a long time, and I've actually this year spent a lot of time talking to people on my team about things that I really want to do better, things that I'm doing that I don't like, and things that I want to try and change. But there's only so much about me that I'm going to change, and I'm not going to be a kiss ass, and I'm not going to tell everybody they're super important and special, or oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't like. You don't like me. You don't like what I have to say. You
gotta have a statement. You gotta go.
Okay. I don't think you really know anything about me, but you're allowed, again, just like our games, you're allowed to make a decision about me based on whatever criteria you want. And if you decide that I'm a jerk and not a nice person, okay, goodbye.
So now the philosophy you have, and again, I think with how Bethesda has been evolving or coming on the scene or whatever you want to say with it, is that reflected in the way you think of games, press, journalism, media stuff too? Because like this year, or I guess in the calendar year of last year, you guys did the thing where you're like, all right, cool. You made the statement that review copies aren't going out early anymore. Like you did it with Doom, where Doom was like, it just dropped, dropping every other day.
Before,
and so everybody's putting up their articles. Here's why you won't see a Doom review. Here's why we're doing review in progress when we get it.
Right.
And then for the next time around, it was Dishonored, correct? Dishonored 2.
Dishonored 2.
Like, here's the official statement. We aren't going to give out review copies anymore.
Well, not like
early.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies.
Super early. Yeah.
Bad phrasing.
No, I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Is that part of the same thing where you want to be open and honest, and you want to talk to the audience more than you want to talk to the media?
It's not either or. It comes from the same place. You mentioned it a little while ago about the 2015 showcase, and like the actual reason for that wasn't just like we thought we really had a strong lineup or a lot going on, or we wanted to make any specific kind of statement. It was a big part of it was, I want to say it was in 2014. I first thought and pitched the idea to Todd specifically because I knew that Fallout was the thing we were going to be talking about the next year. And it was, one, hey, what if you only had to do the demo once instead of having to do it every hour on the hour, like in a special theater in our room over and over all 3 days? Because it's exhausting. It really takes a toll on you. Talking all day, as you well know, is not an easy thing to do. Like it physically wears on you. But the other thing is that so much of what we were doing to that point was through a filter. Where we were showing something, we were showing a demo or letting people do hands-on, and then what we were doing was getting filtered out to everybody else through somebody else. And there were so many times we would do a demo and then look at the previews and be like, God, how did nobody talk about this? How did nobody mention this or this or this or all these like cool things that we think the fans will be really interested in, but the fans can't see it.
Right.
Like, what do we do? And so it was an effort to try and do something that everybody could see. And by the way, not just like the fans, obviously that was a big part of it, like for them to be able to see directly, but it was also, we book appointments in past years for Skyrim, or when I met you and Colin for the Fallout 3 demo. Like, well, how many people from IGN actually got to see or do any of that, right?
Yeah.
It's 1 or 2 or whatever.
And then there's that mad dash in the final day. All right, you're up for the game of the show. Can we bring 15 people?
Right. And you have all of these other, like, well, I want lots of people to see it. Whether it's a site or a magazine or whatever, like, well, I don't want just 1 or 2 people there.
Sure.
Like, I want everybody to be able to see, like, I saw that. Like, we can have a conversation as opposed to it all being one direction. And so the idea of the showcase was, look, everybody gets to see it and have a conversation around it, and the fans can go pour over and go frame by frame and look at stuff and talk about things that may have gotten missed or not talked about. But everybody's kind of on the same page with the same information, the same footing. And honestly, I think our review strategy was born a lot out of that same belief, which is we were not huge fans of the notion that reviews go out there and they go into this vacuum where a select group of people will have passed a judgment on a title, and the audience that is reading that has no real information to be able to shit detect whether or not that person really got the game and is communicating clearly what's going on, or didn't really get it, or they agree or disagree. And at the end of the day, it feels like that is more genuine. That's more transparent. Like, everybody has access to the same information in the same way. I'm not afraid of a review going out any number of days early. At this point, I'm not afraid of anything. What I want for people to have access to the same information. It's not that everybody who reads the review will have played it. Like, well, obviously reviews are for plenty of people who haven't played the game or are waiting to decide. But there's some volume of people who say, you've played the game for 20 hours, so have I. And by the way, these things are incorrect.
You missed this system. You don't understand this.
Yeah. Or how did you not mention that you could play through everything in stealth mode? Like, I never killed anybody. What do you mean it's a bloodbath and it's just about stabbing people? Like, I played totally non-lethal. Right? There's a level of, I guess accountability is part of it, but it's more just there's no favoritism. It's more transparent.
Sure.
And I think, I could be wrong. I often am. But I think it lends itself to more dialogue and discussion amongst everybody, as opposed to, well, these guys have this, and all of these people over here, when they read it, by the time they figure out how much of that was true or not true, like, it's 7 days, 10 days old news, and it's fallen down the page, and now there is no discussion about that. And we saw it in the case of Doom, and we saw it in the case of Dishonored 2, where in either direction, you can have folks who write really gushing praise stuff, and it's very clear this person played the game for 2 hours. And they have no clue what actually happened. You've read these reviews, right? I've read reviews for my own stuff that embarrassed me because it was the copy that was on the back of the box, right? Yeah. I could read it and go, there's not a single sentence in this review that tells me that this person played the game. Now, people might say, well, why do you care? You got a 10 out of 10. You know why I care? Because I sent a copy to that person because I assume they're professional, and I'm not looking to just get back of the box copy out there. I could have sent that copy to somebody else. It's not like I have infinite copies to send. And I want somebody to respect and take time to evaluate the thing that somebody spent 3 years making and and poured their heart and soul into. Like, at least have the decency to give it a fair shake and tell folks what's really going on there, and to show us that you've actually played it. And by the way, I've experienced the same thing, and it's a far better way to judge for games that other people make that I play and enjoy, and to be able to read and go, this person doesn't get this game at all. Like I've played this game. I've played it for longer than you, or whatever. And like, you're totally missing the point. Maybe this isn't your genre. Maybe you didn't play it, whatever. But I find that really instructive. And I think it's much better to have that dialogue in an environment where everybody is on a more even playing field. And in the case of the two games you mentioned, like, they were really good games.
Yeah, that was the concern, right? When Doom was coming up and it was because we've talked about it before. Like, of course, when it used to be, and still for the most part is, not you guys, but for a lot of times, if you're getting the game on release date, something's wrong with this. They're trying to hide something because they don't want to lose pre-orders. They don't want to do this.
We were very aware of that when we were talking about this. Like, it was a real concern and risk of, like, how much crap are we going to take while we sit here silent on Doom, and people are like, it must be really bad, or there must be problems, like they're not sending out copies in advance. And for Dishonored 2, the reason we put that out was, well, all of these things went up for Doom where people, without comment from us, were saying those things. And here's our article on why our Doom review isn't coming up. And there was all this conversation about transparency and so on and so forth. And we said, okay, well, we'll be upfront. I mean, this kind of goes back to your earlier point. Like, we'll be transparent. We're going to tell you why, and we're going to tell you ahead of time. So you're not just reading somebody's article and assuming you know why it's not going out. No, we're going to tell you, and we're going to tell you, hey, if you need review scores, you should totally wait. Like, we're completely supportive of that, but this is what we're doing, and this is why, and now you know. And we did have some concerns about, like, I mean, not everybody is thrilled about
yeah, I was going to say, how did it go over? Is it because, like, I think when this announcement goes up, a lot of people read between the lines of, all right, Bethesda saying traditional games journalism, games media, enthusiast press, whatever the hell you want to call it, doesn't matter as much as it used to. And is that, I mean, do you feel like that is true? And then also, like, yeah, how do and I'm not even asking outlet by outlet, magazine by magazine. How do people respond to it?
It was varied. I got, most of the feedback I got was behind the scenes, off the record, and I got messages from people who were like, totally get it, understand. I got notes from other publishers like, you're awesome. I wish we would do this too. I got notes from really unhappy, angry people. And there was a lot of stuff where people didn't talk to me, but they were out on social media just blasting us for it. I don't actually think it has as much to do with like, what is the value of traditional media? I still think traditional media is tremendously valuable, but it depends on who the person is and the opinion they're giving and whether or not I respect their opinion, which is something that has to be earned. I think the value of traditional media, like I still read movie reviews. I still read game reviews. I read them from sources that I respect because their take on stuff seems to jive well with mine. If you're constantly reading a reviewer who seems to completely disconnect with you and what you like playing, well, why are you reading what that person has to say? Because you're not actually getting anything helpful. Unless you just do the opposite of what they say, in which, I mean, that's a weird way to go about doing it. But for me, it's they are, when they do previews and interviews and so forth, like the value for me is in people who really know their stuff, bringing a take or an opinion or doing analysis that I don't necessarily get somewhere else, right? Yeah. You can watch our showcase yourself. You don't need anybody else, but it's fun and interesting to read other people's write-ups on it to see if they had a particularly different take or they noticed something or saw something that you didn't maybe see or think about. And you're like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Like that's the value of those, of all of those outlets, is their ability to bring some expertise and insight and to bring a take that is enough for me to read, even if I've already seen or played or watched the thing that they're writing about. I mean, I'm a Wake Forest basketball junkie, Mizu, and I still read articles from multiple outlets after every basketball game that I fucking watched myself. I sat there for 2 hours. There's nothing about that game that article is necessarily going to tell me about what happened, but I'm looking for the insight from the reporter to talk about what a player did or didn't do, or a coach's insight on something that maybe I hadn't noticed. Like, that's the value. Like, I don't need their help in figuring out the score. I was there. I watched it. It sucked. Yeah. But getting that analysis from an analyst or a reporter I find valuable, particularly if it's one that has earned my respect by frequently being able to sort of highlight things or bring to light things that I maybe necessarily wouldn't have noticed myself.
I mean, no, you're hitting the nail on the head, I think, in terms of where we are and what works and what doesn't right now in games press. And the fact that, like, the whole reason we exist, right, is because people just trust our opinions and they don't care if they're outdated. You know, Tim and I played Emily is Away way late and put up a Let's Play about it, and so many people hit us up. I bought it because of you guys. Yeah. And I finally got around to playing Hue over Christmas break and tweeted about it, and so many people bought it because of that, and then Colin started playing it and talking about it too. Like, there's that discovery element of it, and the most popular live streams we do on Twitch are all right, here's the post show to the Nintendo Switch event, to the PlayStation event, to the Bethesda showcase. You know what I mean? Like, people want to hear you talk about that.
By the way, on this topic, I thought, out of all of the stuff that I read and heard, I thought you guys had far and away the fairest conversation about this issue, about our review policy and why. Like, I thought it was great. Like, it was really to the point. Like, you guys had really good insight. You talked about, like, well, we used to be on the other side of this, and like, I mean, in fairness, like, it's not like it makes us look great, but I don't remember if it was you or Colin made the point about Skyrim PS3, like. Well, we did get early copies of Skyrim, and it's not like we called that out or called it before the copy, right?
And that's the thing about it. Whereas, and this is back in the day, IGN, back when Skyrim came out, of like how broken multi-plat reviews were. Where it was like, all right, cool, I'm going to play it on my platform of choice, and then I pop it in and I play 30 minutes, maybe an hour, and say, all right, I saw this bug that I complained about over here, and I didn't see this, and blah, 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 and you put it out there. Whereas, like, now it is that thing that, with your policy or a policy similar to this, or just where we are, is that things drop and they know if there's a PlayStation problem with Watch Dogs 2, we would know about it. Because we're the guys who are going to do that, regardless if somebody played on Xbox One for the IGN review of it. And that's the interesting thing in the take and give, and how for us, we put up all these things on the Gamescast all the time of our review in progress or impressions, or like we took flack recently because Tim did one of the games and he put it up and he called it like kind of blah, 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 whatever, Game X review, right? And it was, Resident Evil, I think. And I had beaten Resident Evil, and then Colin was almost there, and Tim wasn't. And like, this is discussion. People are like, well, Colin, how can you call? Well, I'm reviewing it. And also, we're just giving you impressions. Like, are we that hung up right now on like how we're calling it?
I think we might be. But in any case, I just wanted to mention, like, I think I sent you a note afterwards, and we chatted about it a little bit. But I thought, at the very least, that you guys were fair and at least trying to put it in context and sort of see the bigger picture. And ultimately, it's just that. It's just rightly or wrongly, maybe it's the right approach, maybe it's not, but we think it's good to have that kind of open where everybody is part of the same dialogue and people aren't engaging on different levels. Like, well, how could you tell me whether or not the Fallout 4 demo was good? Yep. You didn't even see it. You just read some guy's write-up, and like, it's way better if you could just watch the whole thing and go, oh yeah, like, I thought that was awesome. I don't know why he didn't like it or why he wrote that. I thought it, whatever it is.
I think it's just an interesting glimpse at how you guys have to deal with the business that's constantly changing, and the fact that live streams and Twitch and, just the audience in general, the Dishonored fan, how much that, if you run a Dishonored YouTube channel and you have 20,000 subs, you probably matter a bit more in terms of what's your opinion on this game versus somebody who's just like, cool, I work for GameSite X and I've gotten Dishonored and now I'm going to go review it. I think there's something to that.
Sure, I would agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. Like to that, because when you're talking about to a hardcore audience or something like that,
yep.
And people were always up and what does this mean? Of like, will people not preview their games? Will they not do this? Is there going to be blowback from it? And it was like, well, if there is, do you want to be part of that site go to that place that's going to play ball like that? Because this wasn't a malicious move on your part.
No, and again, like I think there's value. Again, even if I can watch a demo, I still think there's value in reading somebody else's preview for the insight. Like, well, maybe it's a sequel and I never played the original ones, and I'm looking for some insight on like Mass Effect is a bad idea, but like I'm looking for somebody who's maybe played all of them and I haven't, and they can give me a little bit more information. Like, well, I didn't have the entire context for what I just watched.
Sure, right? Yeah, 100%. And so then this is something in the same vein that we talked about yesterday. I want to dial it over there. So when you get a bad preview, what does that do to you? And the example I gave yesterday was Evil Within. Is that when you guys showed Evil Within for the first time at PAX East, me, Damon, and I think Marty, somebody else from IGN went and saw it behind closed doors. Dave Clayman was giving us the demo.
Good old Dave.
Good old Dave Clayman. And we left and we were all like, okay, that looks rough. That's in bad shape. This isn't good. And we did a video where like none of this, and then a lot of other people said the same thing. And then it was like Evil Within comes out and it's awesome. I'm like, oh fuck, like we missed the context and this wasn't it. And like, that was when you were doing, hey, come into this room and we're going to give the 15 times a day over and over again every 30 minutes. Like, What did that preview mean to you guys?
Well, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday in the context of like, well, in that particular case, why didn't you think you were in trouble on the Evil Within from a dev standpoint? Yeah. That one was really more of a failing on the part of good game, bad demo. Like, I don't think people don't always realize how difficult it is to put together a good demo of something.
That Prey 2 demo was great.
Yeah, it was. And people don't also realize that a great demo does not always equal a game that's either great or even shippable. And I think in that case, I think we, myself, my group, dev, production, whoever, just put something together that didn't really have the right context for this is what this game is about and trying to do, whether we picked a bad part and threw you into the deep end of the pool or whatever it was. Like, we just picked the wrong mix of stuff to give you the context for this is what is good about this game. And to use a name I keep dropping, one of the reasons why Todd is excellent at what he does is he already knows when he's making a thing what the demo for that product, like, he can tell you, I guarantee you, I haven't actually asked him, but I know he knows the answer. Like, your next game, do you know what the opening, the first trailer, the reveal trailer looks like? I guarantee you he knows. I guarantee you he knows what the box looks like. I guarantee you he knows what he wants to show off in the demo. Now, it may not end up being that thing, but he has a vision
working
in his
towards that
head
vision.
of how am I going to take all of this? How the hell am I going to take Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Skyrim, hundreds of hours of open-ended gameplay, and distill it down into a nugget that you walk away and go, like, shit, I got
play
it,
that.
right?
Yeah.
Like, because you could show off Skyrim and have it suck. Like, you can't. I mean, it'll look cool, but if you just wander through the wilderness and never find anything and never pick anything up and you don't fight anybody and you just kind of wander aimlessly through and in 15 minutes you go, okay, well, that's the demo. Thanks for coming. Have a good E3. Like, people are going to like, what in the hell? Like, is that a walking simulator? What did I just see? So it does take talent and insight, even on the part of the people making the game, to come up with something that takes what you're making and distills it down into a digestible chunk that people can take away and understand. Whether that takes 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 50 minutes, it's not always easy to do. And it's something we actually more and more, and I was talking earlier about going through the process of shipping a game with somebody and what that's like and how it gets better the second time around. Like, this is actually part of it. Like, having conversations around, when are we going to announce it? When are we going to release it? And like, how many beats in between do we have? Like, can we get away with just having to do like one demo or two? Because every time you do a demo, you're taking time away from making a final thing that goes in a box to give me a small digestible thing, whether it's hands-on or it's it's video or whatever. Like, it takes time away. Like,
Sure.
because there's
games aren't made like that. It's not like, all right, we finished everything in this level. Let's move
and
on.
then
You're
at any
moving.
given moment, any game in the world has something going on that makes it fucked up and completely uncapturable on video, right? There's a lighting bug, there's an animation bug, there's a collision thing, whatever it is. And so you have to spend time on that tiny little section of the world fixing all of that stuff just in that one instance, even if that's not the way you would fix it across the whole game necessarily, because E3 is coming. We don't get to move E3 date, and we need to have something to show people, in a showcase that everybody's going to see, like, this is the thing that we're making. And so it is definitely a challenge. We haven't always done it right. We've done really good ones. My favorite ones that we've done is always ones where somebody comes in and we hand the controller, the Fallout 3 one where I met you and Colin, where it's just like, look, you got an hour for us, you got 57 minutes. Here's the controller. You're going to start outside the vault and go. Like, what do you mean go? Like, just go wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. Don't go past this dialogue thing so you don't spoil the main story for everybody, but otherwise do whatever the hell you want. Have fun. And just letting people get loose in the world. Those are the most fun to read. We talked about, like, why do you read? Because you read all the different ways that people sort of express themselves or try things, or there's journalists who would be like, well, everybody I talked to went this way, so I went the exact opposite way just because I wanted to see, is there anything there? How does the game adapt? What is there to do?
Well, that always speaks to me and what you guys, the quality of your games, and even before, like, I really think you've come into your own, or whatever the hell you want to say, before you become like this fucking all-star. With the same PAX where Evil Within was in that room, you had Wolfenstein out there with a whole bunch of sessions. And I actually, what had happened is we went and saw Evil Within, and then the next day came back, and that's when I saw Dave Clayman against a wall like this. And I'm like, how you doing? He's like, we're doing fine. I'm like, all right, great. I'm going to go play Wolfenstein. And then I walked in, I'm like, all right, I'm here to do my Wolfenstein demo. Like, all right, cool. Here's your controller and your headphones. It's 2 hours. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I thought it was going to be like a 15-minute demo. It's like, oh, no. And I played it, and it started off like, I'm not that big of a shooter guy. And it totally was like, all right. And then by the end, I'm like, when I put down the controller and left, I was like, that game's really good. Like, holy shit. Like, no wonder they let us play 2 hours of it. They're super confident. And, like, especially for a game that didn't have any buzz. I mean, it was Wolfenstein. That's a name. But a thing of, like, yeah, this studio you've never heard of is making Wolfenstein.
Well,
and it's
with
awesome.
a banged up brand. I mean, we also went into that knowing, like, it's not like that was a household name and every game in that was
fantastic.
like we had to sort of, hit the reset button on that and say, look, don't worry about what that was. Just focus on what these guys are doing now.
Yeah.
Don't judge it based on what came before.
Final question from me, and then we'll go through reader mail. Quick fire.
Yeah.
I think I'd be remiss not to ask. We talked about transparency. We talked about how you've handled it. You handle it with the audience. How you've handled it with the game review policy and stuff like that. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the mod thing that happened, where you guys put up the mods for Fallout 4.
Oh,
where it was like, hey, we've done all we can. It's not coming to PlayStation unless they fix it. Was that number one? Colin talked about it yesterday for a second, and I agree that it was like, a brilliant move to either be like, hey, we've played all our cards. Like, this is where we want to talk to you and explain to you what's happening, and this is what's happening. Hopefully Sony fixes it. But was there complete terror of like Sony be like, all right, well, fuck you. You're never making games with us again?
I don't know about complete terror, but I also think we reached a point given where we were and the fact that like it had reached the state of parity across all platforms. But on this one, like it wasn't out, and we don't have ultimate say on what we can or can't do. There's rules for every console.
Yeah.
If you were to go out and design a game console, you should be allowed to design the rules for this is what you can do and this is what you can't do. And in this case, like we couldn't go forward. We couldn't talk about everything that were the reasons why. So we just had to give a basic thing of, look, it works and it's hasn't been approved, and we don't really know what's going to happen next because we just felt like we couldn't sit there and continue to say nothing when we had done,
Sure.
as you said, everything that we could, and didn't really know which direction that was going to go from there. It could have gone straight into the toilet. Some would argue that was already the toilet, but we could have gone straight in the toilet from there and never gotten anywhere. Or we could get to where we are today, where folks from Sony, folks from Bethesda Game Studios got together and worked the problem and came up with a solution that we could get through. And we said, okay, well then, like that's what we're going to do. But yeah, I just think at that point we felt like it had been long enough, and we had done, I guess, everything we felt like we could do that was in our power, and we needed to say something because at the end of the day, it was our fans.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
They bought our game. They
Yeah.
had a level of expectation, and we to continue to just sort of say no update, check back next week, which just at some point becomes no longer viable.
Was there a moment when all that started where you're like, we're never making another PlayStation game? Because
No.
I feel like PlayStation 3 with Skyrim, right? It was like, God damn it. All right, everybody get to hard work. And then Fallout 4, you're like, all right, here we go. We're back. Oh, God damn it. Another PlayStation problem.
No.
Because that's how we were with
I
Vimeo.
did say
We're
the
like,
last
never.
thing. I was like, I was like, God damn it again. In part because to my previous point, like people don't like yelling at buildings or logos. They want to yell at somebody.
Yeah,
so the
yeah,
person
yeah.
they yell at is me.
And you're like,
the
I
thing
got
that
it. Fallout 4, I'm returning
And
to
the thing
grace.
that they always yell at me about, Greg, is like, you're an Xbox fan, you hate PlayStation. And I remember saying at one point, one of those, like, maybe not the best thing, like, I should have checked my swing, but I was like, dude, do you know how many goddamn Sony consoles that I own? Like, I own 3 PS3s and 3 PS4s and 2 Vitas and a PSP. Like, I love PlayStations. I got headphones and a jack in the play. Like, I love this console. I love this thing. I want it to work. I was playing Fallout 4 on
the PlayStation 4.
Like, I can't play mods either. Like, this pisses me off too, but that doesn't mean we're wrong
Sure.
or not trying. And it was a different situation. In the case of Skyrim PS3, it was that, like, look, we made the game. We had some problems with the game running on that console. It was 100% down to us to fix it and address it, which we did and ultimately solved.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
hey, can we? Speaking of PlayStation consoles,
This thing that we forgot to do on the
yesterday
episode we lost.
So
and
this
put at
is
the
no
end.
longer a surprise, but it's still
It's
funny.
still very nice. This is awesome.
So back when I was traveling, I think I was headed to London,
Mm-hmm.
and you started the PlayStation Vita relocation program,
right.
and you asked like, "Hey, have you got a Vita shoved in a corner or whatever?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "Actually, I got 2. One's in my office and one's somewhere in my house. Well,
Yeah.
this is the one in my house."
An OLED one, no less.
Which I reset and brought to you
Yes.
to give away to one lucky.
Thank you very much.
Kind of funny game.
The Vita relocation program grows to 5 now, I
There
believe.
we go.
have 5
So
PlayStation
whoever
Vitas.
gets this,
More than 2,000 people want the Vitas. We have 5. One day I'll have to mail them out.
but whoever gets it, please give it a good home. Love it. Take good care of it. Make sure you polish the screen every day.
Thank you, Kev.
But I want to contribute to the Vita relocation program.
glad,
I still
I'm glad.
got my other one, so it's not like I'm
Oh, yeah,
making
you're
a
still
complete
playing one. No,
sacrifice.
I
But I can make do with one.
yeah.
It's probably just
I still
because I
think
hate.
you're just trying to cover up that you guys are such Xbox
It's probably just
fanboys.
because I hate PlayStation.
Exactly. We all know you're in bed with the Scorpio people. I saw Todd in the video
Kiss my ass.
talking about his teraflops. I don't even know what the hell's going
don't
on
either.
over there. All this different stuff.